What's happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with Joe's Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him. And we're gearing up for the second season of NFL, the postseason, the fun season, the exciting season. So I got my man Chris Franklin of NJ.com to talk a little NFL playoff implications, I guess, for this Saturday. So
Yeah,
we got
man.
two games on slate, Chris. We got and both games are for I don't know if it played out this way or if they kind of made it this way, but the 49ers and Seahawks take the field today, 5:30 my time, 8:30 your time, for the NFC West crown. And then the NFC South crown will be decided at 1 p.m. my time, 4 p.m. your time, between the Carolina Panthers and the Baker Mayfield led sub 500. Baker Mayfield led sub 500 Tampa Bay Bucks. But I tell you, boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Anyway, so we'll start right there. I Going into the season, I did not think Carolina would be an 8-win team. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought they'd be at best a 6-win team, possibly 7, maybe look a little better. So they've surprised me at being 8-8 with the possibility of going 9-8. And they really surprised me with the possibility of winning the division, which I actually think they're going to do today. You know, they're 27th, like just I don't know if they're a good football team or they're just in a bad division. Is that fair to say? Is that a safe assessment to make there? 27th in the league in scoring, um, 16th in points allowed. But some bad numbers. Like if they were if it was any other team, people would be if it was like a considerable or a top tier team, people would be saying this is a bad season. But for Carolina's a good season. One of the things that did strike me though, and I'm gonna throw the ball to this is the quarterbacks had a pretty good year this year. I think we all agree is that a pretty solid year. And one of the notable differences, or one of the things that I thought was interesting, was that Jim Caldwell took more of the reins in dealing with him. So I don't know if that played a role in his development or, made any difference at all. But I thought that was interesting. Other than that, I think they're rushing to go sit in traffic, if you will. I think they're playing hard to win this game so they can lose next weekend. What say you?
See, here's the thing. I look at first off, that Jim Caldwell thing. It's funny what happens when you have Jim Caldwell in charge and he does good things. Why is he being a head coach? Anyway, again, but anyway, I look at the Panthers. I think, I think overall, what Dave Canales has done with this team overall is instilled a sense of it's funny because he came from the Buccaneers, like trying to knowing how to win. That's the only thing they had because every year by virtue of them being so bad, they've gotten these higher picks and talent. And now you look at guys like Tatiana McMillan, and they're adding there. They can be a dangerous threat. And it's there's going to be so much pressure on the Buccaneers because the Panthers are playing with free money. You look at the
Yeah.
way they're doing this right now. Rico Dowdle, who would have thought we're talking about unexpected, who would have thought he would have stepped up and become the player that he is he has been this year so far. And I look at all this stuff and I'm like, you know what? They're on the road. That's the only thing. Like, I think they're 1 year away from being a playoff team.
You
I
think
just
so?
don't see it
So
in
you like
this.
the Bucks in this game?
I like the Bucks in this game only because they're still young and they struggle to find ways to win late. They've done better as of late, but I think overall in this pressure situation, this might be one where the Buccaneers escape by the skin of their teeth. And I think Todd Bowles also has a lot more pressure on him to not be possibly fired. So I think that he's going to try everything to motivate him. But they've leaked oil throughout the rest of the second half of the season, and I think overall it's weird. The Panthers could be one of those teams because I think we're talking about this later on. Whoever loses that other game between the Seahawks and the 49ers, they're going to have to go out. They're going to travel cross country. Who knows? It could be a Saturday game, could be a Sunday at 1 o'clock game, and we know how West Coast teams go out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Buccaneers actually might win a game just based off of that. Knowing that one too, they're not a great team at all by any means, but just because they got to host the whole game, they maybe have a shot. So I look at Tampa to win this game now.
You said the pressure is going to be on the Buccaneers, and that's a fair assessment. I just look at Bryce Young, and I see a pedestrian quarterback. I think he's at a solid 63% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns. And I look at Baker Mayfield, though, and the first thing that comes to mind is he had a subpar year. You know, 63 completion percentage, 25 touchdowns. 10 interceptions. So I've got no reason to believe that Baker is going to lead this team to victory. Now I know they've had injuries. And that's I guess a point. I don't want to say it's a good point because every team has had injuries. Every team's had, we all got a story, B. I just think that the time it's they may be a year away from winning a playoff game, but I think they're good enough to win a bad division. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
think they're
yes.
ready to win a bad division. And I never brought in the Baker Mayfield. Last year I thought was an aberration. It's proven that it was. 7-9 is a losing team. 8-8 is a mediocre team. I'm always going to pick the mediocre team over the losing team. And you can look this up. I don't know what the score was of the first game, but I don't think playing on the road is going to make a difference because there's not much of a temperature gauge from Carolina to Tampa. It's not much of a travel gauge from Carolina to Tampa. So that I don't think that's going to be a major deal there. I just like Carolina. I just think they're faster. I think they're younger, and it's going to sound so cliche, but I feel like hungry dogs run faster. It's just what it is, and they're young, they're dumb, and they're and they're ready to go. And so I actually like Carolina here, and I actually like Carolina by a touchdown or more.
I can
I
see
like
that.
Carolina by a touchdown or more.
And
What
the
say
thing
you?
is, I can see that. The thing is, I can see that too because last game was 23-20, and when the Panthers won. The other thing I'm looking at is how they're going to play them and the turnovers. So Carolina is plus five. Carolina is zero in the plus minus different turnover differentials. So they shouldn't have given another ball right. Surprisingly, the Buccaneers are plus five. And there's for Russell's defense. Now, one thing that I like that the Carolina Panthers did against the Buccaneers was added the blitz a lot. And found a stat Baker Mayfield has the second lowest completion percentage in the blitz of his this season. He's 51
Say
completed
word.
50.7.
Say word. I'm so shocked by that bit of information.
And the one thing I thought that the Buccaneers did really well when they were really firing early this season, they were getting contributions from even though they didn't have like Mike Evans at times or Chris Godwin, they were attacking with the deep ball and having success with that. I mean, Emeka Ibuka, where's he gone? He's disappeared. Ted Johnson's an afterthought. I know he's like the fifth wide receiver now. And you look at Mike, you can't rely on Mike Evans all the time because he's still. I still think he's a little banged up there. And Chris
I think
Godwin's
he's done.
dropping too many
I think
passes
he's done.
again. He's dropping so many passes. It's crazy. I know I was an MO on him before, but it's more pronounced in big moments. So it's there. I completely can see the Panthers win. I can definitely see that. And it's just one of the things. It's one of the things where teams are so evenly close. I look at the home team as being the one that might have the edge in that one. That's the only reason why I think the Buccaneers. I think that's the only reason why I think the Buccaneers eat this one out. Almost a similar score, 23-20. I can see that happening all over again. This and I think also too, it might be sloppy football. And both teams should be happy that the Saints finally figured out how to play together late. Because if you see them playing the Saints right now, I might even take the Saints if they're playing the way they have the last few weeks. I don't see. So both these teams have issues, but yeah, Stout is too
It's,
bad.
issues is an understatement. So you put all the X's in those, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that. Mine are gonna be so it's gonna be so weird. If Carolina has the ball, if Carolina wins the time of possession, they're gonna lose. What? If Carolina wins the time of possession, they're gonna lose. Carolina in games that they rushed the ball for more than had 30 or more rushing attempts, right? They had 5 of them, 2 and 3. No, excuse me, they had 6, 2 and 4. In games where Bryce Young has thrown the ball more than 30 times, more than 35 times, there was something like 1 and 5. So if you can't run the ball when you got it, you can't throw the ball when you got it, the hell are you going to do with the ball? So the best thing for them to do is to not have the football. That's it. To make big plays, to capitalize on the mistakes that the Bucks have made all season, and then get the hell off the field. That's how they're going to win this game. They're either going to lay in their haymakers or there's going to be a long bad fight. There you go. That's a perfect analogy for you. If they don't land their haymakers and knock them out early, they're going to lose this game. And by knocking them out, they got to get out to a 10-0 lead. They got to get out to a 9-0 lead. They got to be so fast, so furious, so quick, you know, that the Bucs don't know what hit them. And then by the time the Bucs figure it out, it's too late. You know what I mean? And that's the only way Carolina wins the game. But I think Carolina's capable of doing that. That's how they got the 8-8. But if they have to rush the football, if they got to run the football, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Because if you got 30 or more rushing attempts and you're failing, I'm gonna double check that. But if you're failing to produce in those attempts by wins, that means you're just lollygagging, quite frankly. It means you're not producing. So that's how I see it. And then X's and O's tangible point. And I'll repeat that. If Carolina wins the time of possession, they will lose this football game. I give the final word to you.
Well, and the thing that makes it funny when you mentioned that is, yeah, they're not going to be able to run up the middle. We know that Vita Vea, if you got him roaming around, and Elijah Cansey, I think he's coming back this week. So if you got him, even Jack Cansey just roaming around the middle, good luck. you got good luck trying to run up
Yeah.
the middle. So I see that. And the other thing is, if that's the case, and then defense has to be on the field a lot longer, J.C. Horn has to actually play like, and I know he's got 5 interceptions, but he gambles way too much for in my opinion, giving up 8.2 yards per target. Against
Yeah.
if he's matched up 1-on-1, he can't let Mike Evans settle the whole entire time. And the one thing I can see to try to get a rhythm, especially if they go up tempo, is if the Buccaneers go up there and they just run RPOs and slants where Mike Evans gets the inside on him, and then next you know it's like 8 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, and then the defense is there wearing down. That's the only danger I see when you're playing. Like I get it, like you don't want like running. I get that. I just see them over run. They're gonna get worn down. And we talk about what's it, 70 some degrees right now down there? And then humid.
Always. Always.
Nah, they're gonna get worn down. So
Always.
it's a bad spot. It's great. I give the Panthers a lot of credit. It's great they're in this position. They could it's a lot of it's much needed experience that these young guys have to deal with, especially for Bryce Young, because even though he's been in the college football playoff, he needs to experience this like NFL type, like this whole different speed, different feel to it. So I'm glad they're finally here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be a good one. I actually am gonna watch it. Like I said, I like Bryce Young. I like some of the things done this year. I like the progression that he's made. Hopefully, this can be a coming out party for him. I believe they are a year away from. Not even think they're a year away because I don't think they'll be a playoff contender next year. But I do think that they're good and they're bad enough to lose next weekend, but they're good enough to win the division. And I said earlier, they're rushing to go sit in traffic. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. So that's, the next game or the game that I think everyone's going to be watching is going to be Seattle at San Francisco. Now, full disclosure, you and I both picked San Francisco to contend for this division. I think I picked them to win, or you picked them to win, but we both agree that they would be a playoff team and they would be one of the better teams in the NFC. However, neither one of us thought Seahawks would be even worth discussing. So the fact that they're here, the fact that Darnold's considered an MVP candidate is crazy talk, is like insane. But it's going to be midnight tonight for the Seahawks. I see nothing that leads me to believe that they're going to win this football game. I believe the 49ers are the better team. I don't like Kyle Shanahan in playoff games. I don't like Kyle Shanahan in Super. I don't like Kyle Shanahan as a coach. I'm not gonna lie, but I will be quiet and sit down and be seen and not heard when it comes to talking about his regular season record. He is one of the best regular season coaches in all of sports, not just the NFL. See no reason why that wouldn't come to fruition again today. What say you?
you know, I look at this game and it was a weird. I don't know. Everybody was glazing the 49ers so much, especially against that game against the Colts. And I just kept hearing them and like, oh wow, look at Rob Saleh and look at the way that this defense is playing and everything else. Yeah, Philip Rivers put up yards and points against them. Philip Rivers of all people. Mister, I'm sitting there, I got my tail. Hey, I just came back to get health insurance and I'm leaving. See you guys, I'm retired again. Thanks again for the check. That guy. So I look at this and I see Jackson Smith and Jigba. I see a eh running game with with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I see them coming back a little bit. Like they can do okay. So they can move the ball. It's always going to come down to like they have some pieces, and they actually getting Cooper Cup a little bit more into into the flow, and he's working. I just don't trust Sam Darnold. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
He's going to give up the throw. There's going to be at least four throws during this game. It's going to come down to four throws. They're all going to be bad throws by Sam Darnold. It all just a matter of 49ers capitalizing. That's all right. And then the fumbles too, because he's prone to leaving that ball out. He's scrambling. He's leaving there. He's running around. He's prone to fumbling. So I see that. The only problem is the 49ers have turned the ball over as well. They've
Yeah.
turned the ball over so much, and you're like, wait, what is this going? Like, it's so bad in terms of that. Let's see. There you go. 49ers are -5 in turnovers from first. We know how important that is to hold the ball. 49ers are worse than the Seattle Seahawks, -4. Like, so I see and Shanahan, especially when it comes to that game management part, where he's so engrossed. I'm gonna use a prop here. Yeah, you know what? Let's use the mouse pad. Where he's so engrossed looking in his play call sheet. Wait, it's 2 minutes? Oh, yeah, it's something like that. But with all that being said, it's still Sam Darnold on the other side.
Yeah.
They should win
Yeah.
this game. And for the life of me, I'm sure maybe Vegas knows something because knowing they get the 3 points when you're home. The fact that the 49ers, I mean, so the Seahawks are a 2.5 point favorite? Huh?
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't get it.
I can answer that question for you. It is Sam Darnold, but if Sam Darnold against teams that have won 10 or more games this season, right? They and I'm not going to include the Steelers, even though Steelers have 9 wins, but in teams that have won 10 or more games, Jacksonville, win, right? Darnold in that game, passed for 286 yards. All right. That that's nothing to sneeze at in Jacksonville coming from Seattle. At the Rams, they lost that game 19-21. So that's a close game. Then they've got the Colts, who at one time were rolling, but just going off the games against the 10-win teams. They beat the Texans. They beat the Texans at home. They beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville. Darnold played well in those games. Even though they lost to the 49ers in Seattle, that was a 13-17 game. And if you remember, that took a late surge by the 49ers to go ahead and to score the go ahead touchdown. It was a late drive late in the game. I want to say it was a final possession walk-off touchdown. I don't think it was a walk-off touchdown, but I believe Darnold left the borrowed phrase from the great Matt Lombardo.
Yeah.
Darnold did leave the field with the lead, though. So the point I'm trying to make is, and it was a little convoluted, so I'll put it all together for you. You know, they beat the Rams, double-digit win team. They beat the Texans, a double-digit team, double-digit winning team. They beat the Jaguars. They won because of Sam Darnold. Whether he did the Jalen Hurts school of success, win 2nd and 8, win 3rd and 4, keep the drive going. Those are Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady specials. And you don't realize it until you look back a few years down the road and Jalen Hurts is throwing for 6,000 yards. And it's like, oh, Tom Brady was throwing 5. Oh, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. The reason he became the greatest quarterback of all time was because when he started out, he was the master of 2nd and 8. He was the master of 3rd and 4. Now, I'm not putting Darnold in that same breath or same elk as them, but the point is, he's winning those downs. When you win those downs, you keep ball going. It's the exact opposite in Carolina and Tampa Bay. But here, I like San Francisco because I just think San Francisco is a bigger, nastier football team. And that's what's going to win a division, a nastier football team. But I don't think Seattle's gonna lose because Sam Darnold's gonna wet the bed. I don't. He's proven this season that he's got diapers on. What say you?
See, and also I think you talk about the nastiness. I think it's going to come down to the run game. And
Yeah.
we mentioned about I mean talked about the Seattle run game. You look at Christian McCaffrey, and the 49ers just tried to do. their best to try to get the outside that zone game running and doing all that, they're going to need their offensive line to really play that nasty ball and run between the tackles. And I think that's the only way that I think offensively, I think that's where they had the most success against that tough Seattle defense. You wear them down. The best formula to have against them is going to be you run in between the tackles, you keep it up tempo, you run so many plays that they start to get fatigued, and then you run your play action off them. Almost like the like what Mike Shanahan used to do all the time. That one, I'll just do it, but just do it on steroids. Just do the same thing. I think that can be had because you look at it, and then also former Eagle Josh Jobe. I like Joe a lot. Teams have been going after him a lot, and he stepped up a couple times when they go into those 3, 4 wide receiver sets. This might be a time where you put Juwan Jennings more in the slot. I know he's more primarily an outside guy. This might be a time we get him in the slot and you get that matchup because I think they can really exploit it with you move him inside and you really get there because especially and not to get too much in the weeds technically, if you put him on the outside and they start to do that cloud thing where they shift all the coverage towards his side, and you gotta yeah, I gotta look at the inactives, inactives. So Kittle's could be playing, I think, or what have you. But if you get Kittle a hobble, he's not gonna be 100%. So he might be just a decoy for all we know. So yeah, I just see there's ways for this 49ers team to move. It's going to be with Shanahan sticking with the run game in between the tackles and living with it, not getting the itch to go. I feel like I got to throw the ball a lot. We haven't thrown in a while. It's, no, get that out your mind. Get the Andy Reid worm out your mind. No, run the ball, wear them down. And you got if it results being a 16-13 win, hey, it's ugly. No, it's luckily it's not college football where they get style points and your poll rankings or that. No, you just win, you get in, and you win, you win the division, get the rest, and you go on from there.
You know, Chris, I'm going to change my pick. Seattle's 11-1 in their 10-1 in their last 11 games. Um, I can't poo-poo that. I can't poo-poo that. The 49ers conversely have played two teams, two legit championship level or two successful 10-win teams. Chicago, who they beat 42-38. Yeah, I'm not really hanging my hat on a 42-38 win. And the Jags, whom they lost to 21-26 earlier in the year. Now we can throw they lost to the Texans. We can throw the Texans in there too. But we can throw in the division games against the Rams, who they beat in overtime 26-23, and then just lost to 26-42. I think San Francisco loses this game, they're headed to Philly, right?
Yeah, most likely, yeah, most likely, yeah.
I think we're
Because I
gonna
think
be
this Rams are six will be six. There's some weird situation where I think the Rams will still be the sixth seed, but yeah, it's most likely them.
a few years ago, way, way long, I'm gonna date myself. The Eagles were on a 5-game winning streak. And if they went to Dallas and won this game, they would have got a bye, and they probably would have went to the Super Bowl because the only opposition at that point would have been Green Bay. They go into Dallas, they lose. They wind up being a wild card team. Dallas wins the division. They wind up being a wild card team, so they have to play Dallas again in Dallas the following week. Dallas swept them that year. Started this run of Dallas pretty much owning the Eagles, despite the Eagles' Super Bowl success. It was also Donovan McNabb's last game as a Philadelphia Eagle. I get the impression or get the feeling that that's what's going to happen here in San Francisco. I feel like Brock Purdy's going to lose this game and he's going to go into Philly and get hit hard again and get hurt again. And this will be his last game as a 49er. I'm I like the 49ers earlier because that was who we picked earlier. But as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about Sam Darnold, and I know what I've seen in Sam Darnold, and I'm looking at a team that, bro, they're 10-1 in their last 11. And Darnold's passing numbers, and this is nothing to like poo-poo. This is since week 9. 400, excuse me, Darnold's passing numbers. 330 yards against the Commanders, 174 against Cardinals, 279 against Rams, 239 against Titans, 94 passing yards against Vikings since they beat the Vikings 26-0. 234, 236, 264, 244, 125. Darnold Darnold's been fine. Darnold's been better than fine. He's played his style of play. There's no reason to think he's not going to do that. And all the pressure's on the 49ers. And I think they're a bigger, nastier football team. Seattle just may be their year, though. Just may be their year. Final segment, final word with you.
Thank you very much for bringing up that 2009 Eagle season because I'll say this. Remember, there was a team, I don't know, say last year, that had to get the one team had to be the 1 seed or they be the 5 seed because they had to win to get the bye week. And the one team lost got bounced in the wild card round. Oh yeah, that was the Vikings, led by Sam Darnold. So that's another thing I forgot.
Nice pull by him. Nice pull by him.
So thanks for reminding me. So
Nice,
I'm like,
nice.
huh, yeah, no, I'm staying. I remember now. Unless and it's one of the things where maybe he gets better experience. Maybe the defense just wins in spite of Sam Darnold. But I just I can't see him. No, I just don't see that. And I just that I the reporter side of me really wishes that happens because it's the second year in a row where it's like, hey, look at this. He hasn't learned. This is what he does. Blah blah blah. Blah. But objectively, the defense, he's going to need his defense. He's going to need his defense in the middle now.
All right. And maybe I should have listened to my instincts and stay with the 49ers, but I'm gonna change my build midstream and I'm gonna go with Seattle. So to make it short, you got the Bucks beating the Panthers. I got the Panthers beating the Bucks. You got the 49ers beating the Seahawks. I got the Seahawks beating the 49ers. So we'll see how this plays out. Quickly, we got about 7 minutes left on the segment. Thing that caught my eye: Todd McVay. Todd I was about to call him McShay. It's not Todd McShay. The coach of the Los Angeles Rams has
Tom McVay.
decided, McVay has decided to play his players. And other coaches have decided to do things despite there being no playoff implications in a win or loss. I don't want to call them a meaningless game because a lot of players get bonuses to help them go. A few years ago, last year, Saquon Barkley had a chance to get the single season rushing record, and Eagles sat him in the final game. Or maybe they pulled him. Anyway, they put forth minimal effort, and they went on to win a Super Bowl. But fast forward, Saquon has had an awful year this year. Awful year this year. Now, if you ask him in front of the camera, would you prefer to go to rushing record with a Super Bowl? Oh, no, I'm so happy I won a Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. But if you ask him at the pinochle table, sipping that lemonade, 10 to get you 20, he say, nah, man, I should have went and got the rushing record, and we should have won a Super Bowl. But the school of thought was we got bigger fish to fry. I don't like the mindset of playing players unless they have incentives in these games because it's like graduating high school. It's expected. Going to the playoffs should be expected. So you need to gear up for the next challenge, the next journey, which is winning a playoff game. When you allow these players or force these players or make these players to play in these games, it takes away from the level of expectation and leads you to believe you haven't done anything, you haven't accomplished a goal, and you're still chopping wood. And you're not. You're not still chopping wood. This segment of the season is over with. You're now headed to the second season. It matters more here. So I need you to be more focused than you were here. You can't do that if you're still playing a regular season game. What are your thoughts on players playing in regular season games who don't have incentives?
I double checked it. I think the Rams do have an incentive, and I found this scenario because right now they're 6. They have to come to Philly. We know how they've done with Philly in the past. They had to travel across country, and Philly has a number right now. But all of a sudden, if the Seahawks win and the Seahawks win and the Rams win, they become the 5 seed. The 49ers become the 6 seed, and the 5 seed has to play. If I remember, if they keep things holding steady, the
Carolina.
4-5 game, yeah, the 4-5 game usually on Monday night too. So you get extra day. You get the shorter rest on the
You
divisional
get
round,
the
but
extra day because you're playing the Panthers and the Bucks. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
if you the Rams, that weather don't bother you none. That weather
and
don't bother you none.
not at all. You get extra day for prepare and rest. You get it's a extremely mini buy, but you get the extra day to rest.
Yep.
So I could see them. I could see why. And I think, and to me, that tells me 2 things. One, Nobody respects the South at all. They're all trying to go up.
No.
Let's move up. I don't care that. And two, the Eagles are in Sean McVay's head. They don't want to go to Philly. They don't want to go to Philly. So I can see why he's doing that. But a lot of these other times, I get why, like the Josh Allen thing. The Bills are going to put Josh Allen there. It better be for one snap because he's hurting. His foot's
Yeah.
hurting. You don't need him to do anything. You're locked in. You're not winning division. Just let him do let him get the one snap. Okay, he's got that's the only time I'd see a guy like to get goodwill. I'm gonna play these guys so they get their money, they feel good, they get rested or something. This is a perfect time for teams who have already clinched the spot. Just let your young guys get some experience. Let
Yeah.
them know because you may get them. They may have to step up in the playoffs and do that. Oren Burks versus when the Kobe Dean went down. So yeah, some of the things is I don't get it. Some of these coaches think too much and like, well, I think we need to keep our momentum going. Blah, blah, blah. Don't care. It's all changes anyway in the playoffs anyway. Just elevate to you higher. So yeah, I get the Rams. This one time is an exception. Why it makes sense for them to try to steer clear of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna shut the book on it because we got 3 minutes left. It just seems like it's an old Southern phrase. You're borrowing worry. That's what it feels like when you're before size about. Well, you don't want to do this. You want to keep your momentum, and you're borrowing worry. These professional athletes, the one thing you can't mimic, the one thing you can't duplicate, the one thing you can't force is health. Give guys an extra day off, an extra second to enjoy the success that they expected. And then you move on to the next man up, next goal, next challenge. When you take that away, now you go from getting in playoff mode to just an extension of the regular season. That's what it feels like. I think there needs to be a shift of mind change that we're in the playoffs now. And by sitting guys, that allows them to do that. That allows them to get focused for the next challenge because the next challenge is the harder challenge. It doesn't get easier. You know what I mean? You just get stronger. And how do you get stronger? By getting rest. So you take this week off and you enjoy yourself. Speaking of taking off, we're going to take off now. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the podcast, when you share, like, comment, subscribe, whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. Here's Chris Franklin of NJ.com. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. Till next week, we appreciate your time and year. You be easy.